So we have a few folks here. We have Aaron here. Hey, Aaron, we can see you. How are you?
How's it going? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
Good.
Well, thanks for making time. Um, if you want, why don't you go ahead and just lead the way? What I'll do is I'll sit back quiet and I'll let you um, go ahead and talk to these guys. They're all in the background, so they're going to have they may have questions, which I'll receive and sort of send to you, verbally tell you. Why don't you sort of walk through the machine, and everyone here has purchased one. We've got about 24 people, it looks like, that are joining us. So thanks for making.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry for the home setup. It's not as professional as I would have liked, but it's what I got for being in quarantine here. So
Yeah.
thank you guys all for being on the call, and looking forward. I'm sure there's going to be some questions, so I'll be happy to go over those with you guys as well. But this should look familiar to everybody. Thank you guys for bearing with us in actually receiving the machines. I'm happy that they're finally shipped out and you guys got the units, but I'll just do kind of a quick overview. Like I said on the phone call to most of y'all, I only spoke with a handful of you for only a few minutes. It seemed like Dr. Brad did a good job of explaining what the unit is and how it's going to be used for your in-home use. And I guess I'll kind of just go over what I would normally do as if you guys were all in person in my lobby. So this is the Respironics Millennium 10 home unit. It can go up to 10 liters of oxygen. From what I see, I think the majority of you are going to be between 2 and 4 liters. So you guys can still hear me, I presume. So what you should see when you pull it out of the box, it comes just as you see it. So the plug-in is already attached. All you do is pull the machine out of the box, plug it into the wall, and then once you have power to that wall, you're going to hit this on switch located right up here. And then you're going to hear an audible alarm that pops up. So I'll just turn it on momentarily so you hear it. So you're going to hear that beep for a quick, couple seconds. And that means that you are getting power to the unit. If that audible alarm continues and it does not go off or shut off, that's going to mean that you don't have power going to the machine. So with this, if I pull the power, you're going to hear the audible alarm and it doesn't stop. You're going to get a red light. That means you want to check the power outlet to make sure that you actually have power going to it. Maybe check the breaker if anything's switched there. So assuming everybody has power going to their machine, when you turn this on, you do get that audible alarm. You'll see up at the top right, if you're looking directly on the machine, you're going to see 3 lights, okay? The top light is your power light. That one you should see on as long as the machine's on and it has power. You're going to get that green power light. That's a good sign. If you get any of the other combination of lights, that's going to mean you're lacking the power, your oxygen purity from the machine is low, something internally is wrong with the machine. If you have an old cannula or tubing, there will be some blockage in the airflow. Sometimes that can affect the machine as well. 99.9% of the time, these things are going to work till the wheels fall off of them, and you're going to get just that green power light for the usage of the machine. Now, with your unit, you should also have attached here something called a Christmas tree for obvious reasons. If you take it off, it actually looks like a little Christmas tree. That's actually very imperative to have. Without this, you can't use the oxygen with the cannula or tubing. You would have to connect some kind of a bottle to this portion. We didn't set everybody up with a bottle, but what that does is add some humidification if you get dry nose. Some of our patients do like the added moisture. So, I'd be happy to go into more depth on that, but for the purpose for everyone on this call, I don't think you would really need that. Most of you all are in California, plenty dry there. So, you know, up in Colorado at high altitudes where we're at, very dry. Those are pretty popular to have up here to add a little moisture. So when you do use this, make sure your Christmas tree is screwed on really firm here. So that way you're not going to get any leakage of air coming from around the Christmas tree. So when you turn it on, it's going to be upside down. That's your little nipple piece to start connecting some tubing. So with everybody's oxygen machine, you should have a cannula that looks like this. So you have on one end a piece that looks like this. On the other end is the two nasal prongs that go right to your face. All right, so that's actually going to be how you receive your oxygen. You're going to take this end right here and connect it firmly on the Christmas tree. So now I'm connected to my oxygen. And then with your tubing, you're going to see some of this facing down if you face it this way, or if you flip it, those things point upward. Most of the time, I think our patients like these things pointed right down. So that's going to kind of aim the air down your nostril. So to fit this to your face, you take those two prongs, put it right in there, take these two ends, wrap it around your ears, and then there's a little, sometimes these little connectors that help it kind of firmly connect to your face. So that's kind of how this thing works here. So again, cannula here, just put it in your nose, wrap these around, and then this sits firmly. All right. So now we're ready to use our oxygen. This example is if you're just going to use the oxygen straight from the machine through your cannula. And then I'll go over how to do more of like a Y split if you're going to be using multiple patients on it, multiple users. So right now I'm just set up for me if I'm just the single user of the machine. I connected my 7-foot tubing. I'm going to kick this machine on. And now you should on the left here see this where the oxygen airflow indicator is. So right now mine booted up all the way up to about 7.5 liters. It's where this ball kind of starts to rise and drop. To go down in your oxygen settings, you're just going to twist the dial clockwise here, and that's going to drop your oxygen. So clockwise will drop your O2 levels, and I want to hover right in between that 2 to 4 liters. That's all relative to what is on your prescription. So I'm sure Dr. Brad can weigh in on what each setting you guys need to be using there, but you can easily adjust. If I want it 2, I'm going to make sure that ball's right in the middle of the number, right in the middle of the number 2. That means I'm getting 2 liters per minute. And I'm receiving oxygen therapy right now. So starting to get the oxygen airflow, and it's a purity very high compared to what normal room air is. Room air, you're getting about 20% oxygen through the machine itself. You're getting between sometimes as little as 88. Most of the time you're getting about 90 to 96% oxygen compared to a regular room air, which is 20%. So it's quite a bit more than what we're typically receiving just from breathing the surrounding air. A lot of the big questions I received on our initial phone calls was how often you need to replace tanks, cylinders, anything like that. There's nothing on this unit that you need to replace to receive medical grade oxygen. So that's kind of the nice thing with these. As long as you have power going to the machine, you get unlimited oxygen. All right. Actually, I'm going to back up. We're not going to go over filters yet. So there's one filter you do need to replace, but in order to receive oxygen, as long as you have power, you're good to go. All right, so that's one type of use if I'm just a single user. So I'm going to take this off. We're going to shut the machine down for a minute. So now, some of you have multiple users. So I'm going to set myself up for 2 users on this. So some of you that requested more than one person using the machine. So I included in there, not everybody got this, but for those that did, it's called a Y connector, just like it looks, little Y. So what that does is it allows me to connect a longer tube. And this one's an open-ended tubing. So if you guys ever need extensions or you want to be further away from your machine than the 7 feet it allows, this one has 2 of the same ends. Okay. So I can connect one end to the machine. And then I have the other end, which I'll connect the Y connector here. And then from one of these spouts, now I can get one patient on this one and one patient on this one. So I can connect a cannula right here. And then I'll receive oxygen on this end of the cannula. And then you can connect another cannula to another patient. So you can have 2. I think that's the only other type of scenario I had. For everybody, most people are just using it just one at a time. That's the easiest way to do it. You just connect your 7-foot cannula to it and turn the machine on and you're good to go. Now there's also in there included a non-rebreather mask. This works identically to the cannula. It's very easy to use. All you do is instead of the cannula, now I have the actual mask to use with it. And this is the non-rebreather mask that Dr. Brad wanted included in all of your packages. So you should each have one of these. And on that one as well, this end just connects right to the machine. Okay. And then you've probably seen some of the masks that have these little metal brackets. So this end is going to go over my face, and then it actually cramps down on your nose, so you get a little tighter airflow through your nose here. And that's going to allow you to also get oxygen, so you're breathing in through your mouth and your nose as well. So that's kind of, honestly, that's really it when it comes to using the machine and operating it. The Christmas tree should already be attached to all of your machines. Sometimes in transit, those do fall off. So if you're missing one, look around in the box, may have fell off. If you're still missing it, contact me. I'll get you one as soon as I can. We do have these in stock ready to go, so I can easily ship one out to you. I think for the most part, that's it for how you use the machine. So if you guys want to start putting in some questions to Dr. Brad, that's cool. While you're doing that, I'm going to flip the machine around and just show you some regular maintenance that you kind of want to keep in consideration when you're using the machine. So on the back here, and I hope you guys can see me. I'm sorry if it's a little dark. I went ahead and opened this up already. So this is the reverse of the machine. You're going to see this door. So when you flip it around, it's going to look like that. Inside here is something called a HEPA filter. So this is the only filter that you need to worry about to actually replace it. And quite honestly, the amount of use that everybody's going to be using this with, and you know, even for my regular users that are reliant on this 24/7, they only need to replace this once every 2 years. So when you open this up, it's a little bit difficult to get off because it has this little bracket that holds onto the machine pretty good. So that way it doesn't just fall off. This helps mute the machine, and it also covers the back so you're not going to have exposure to that filter. But inside here, if I reach in and pull this out, this is the HEPA filter, okay? So this one, again, it lasts probably about 2 years. You can change it sooner if you're a freak like I am. I like to change and make sure things are clean. So you can always order these sooner than 2 years. It's probably even better for the machine the more you change that as well. but you don't want to let that go more than 2 years, I would say. So around the 2 year mark, give me a call. We'll send one of these out. I think they're $20. Send it out to you. Inside the unit, if you want to take some kind of a damp cloth every once in a while and wipe the inside, you'll kind of open that up. There's no harm in you guys taking this off the machine, so feel free to open that up and just kind of explore the unit a little bit so you kind of know what you're dealing with. It's very easy to put this back on because if you see, this is the bottom. There's just inside the unit, there's just a little rubber seal that seals this thing in. So I'm just going to pop this back in here. So that's ready to go. And then I can put the filter back on and it snaps in there. This part that comes off also is an added filter. So you can see it's pretty thick. What I've seen people do is take a vacuum to it. You can spray it off, rinse and reuse, just make sure it's fully dry for the reuse of this. But again, that's not really something I don't think you really need to deal with that often. You know, if you have pets, a lot of hair around the house like I do, I have a black lab, so that thing will get pretty dirty very quickly if I'm using it, but that will pop back on. The last filter that you need to worry about is this one here on the side. So this is on, if I'm looking at the unit here, it's on the left-hand side from the front. And this thing has 2 notches that you just push down on and pop it off. And it just comes right off. It has another filter that looks similar to the other one that I showed you. And then secondly, right inside here is a little rinseable filter as well. Looks pretty familiar with other filters you might have seen. This can collect dust the most. So of anything, if you're going to clean one, if you're a freak like I am and you want to clean something, take this thing off every couple weeks, rinse it underwater, let it dry, and you can pop that thing right back on, just like that. And then this cover snaps right on there. Pretty easy. And then again, you can kind of see what it's covering. I would actually take a vacuum to this portion as well every once in a while just to keep it clean. All right. There are little locks on the wheel as well. You can just push the lock down. So that way it's not wheeling around. If for some reason it's on an uneven surface. Not really too much of a need for that. And then really easy maintenance is just take your duster or vacuum every once in a while all around the unit and just keep it clean as much as possible there.
So a couple questions. So one is, if you're not using the machine a lot, how often do you need to change that HEPA filter? Is it only if you're using it a lot, or does it degrade with time?
That's a good question. So what we always tell our patients, and keep in mind, we have a lot of users that are doing this 24/7. This is something that's a life-sustaining device for most. With those type of users, they are using the machine really often. So that's actually better for the unit. So if this is something that is more preventative and you're keeping it somewhere close just in case you need it, what I would recommend doing is once a month, pull the unit out, even if you're not using it, turn it on, set it at a pretty decent setting, like 2 to 4 liters, and just let that thing run. Even if you're not actually getting the oxygen, let that machine run by itself, kick it on. You don't want it parked too long because then it can collect moisture. It starts to have issues a lot quicker than if you were to be a more regular user on it. But we found that as long as you're pulling it out once a month and running it for a few hours here and there, you should be just fine. So set an alarm or whatever once a month to pull this out, turn it on, run it a few hours, and then turn it all down, put it back in the closet. As far as that goes, though, the filter would still be the same. Every 2 years is still fine on that HEPA filter.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's on the front, can you just review the different knobs on the front too? Some people joined a little late, so if you can just review. I know some people had it like it arrived and it was beeping in the box.
Yes.
We'll have that. So maybe just
That
talk.
that would definitely make sense. That matches up for everything why the machine is capable of doing what it's doing. So I actually unplugged my machine just now, so there's no power going to it, which is why if you received a machine and it was beeping upon arrival, that's due to it not having a source of power to get the machine rolling. So now that I'm unplugged, if I just turn the machine in the on position, it's going to give this loud audible alarm that just is a warning sign. So that way, if you're using it or sleeping with it and you get a power outage or something, it's going to wake you up and say, hey, you're not getting any oxygen. Wake up and do something about this. So if I just turn this on with no power, you're going to get that. That's probably what they heard upon arrival, which can be very annoying. And then on that as well, you're going to get a red light, this bottom light that's red saying there's no power going to this thing. So you want to check that. So that'd be the first thing. If you're getting any kind of audible alarm on there, it's as simple as either changing an outlet or making sure your breaker didn't short or something like that.
And do you have a sense for if people are using it and they don't like? Do you have a sense for its lifespan? If people put it in an attic and don't use it for 5 years, like if they pull it out and use it, it's going to work, or you think that
I
risk?
would, for the money that's spent on these, as everybody knows, I would definitely recommend once a month, once every other month, just making that effort to pull it out and use it, just to make sure that you're getting the oxygen when you do need it. Because it sounds like, this is something that in an emergency we want to have available. So I would definitely err on the side of caution with pulling it out and using it, or running it in the corner of the room. As long as you're powering it, because it's continuous flow, it's not relying on someone on the other end to trigger the oxygen to help you breathe. You turn it on and this thing doesn't care if anybody's attached. It's pushing oxygen right away. So even if it's in the corner of the room, put it upstairs, put it in a different room so you don't have to hear it, and let it run for a little bit. No harm. But these big M10 machines that we got everybody, they're meant to last a very long time. I'm not going to say you're never going to have issues with it, but of all the units that I sell, the 10 liters, they're the most robust, the biggest compressors. They're capable of doing the most and lasting the longest.
Great. Any other on the front black panel next to the on-off buttons or anything there that we need to know about?
Yeah, I'll just review it quickly again, just so everybody that did join us can get filled in. So there's this little black area that you guys can't see, but if you're in front of your machine, you'll be able to read it. The top one is your power button. That's what you should see when you hit it in the on position. If you're getting anything other than that green light for more than 5 minutes or so, you want to give me a call and I can kind of field those questions and make sure that your machine's working properly. In a perfect world, every time you turn this thing on, you should get the green power button here, and that's it. That means you're getting oxygen straight from the unit. Now, there will be times down the road, once you've actually used the unit and this thing has had some hours put on it, that right here, it's almost like a odometer on a car. It pulls your hours, so you can see how many hours of use your machine has. The factories, when you get these, you might have up to 50 hours of use on it just for factory settings. They want to make sure that it meets FDA regulations and produces the right amount of oxygen for you. But when those hours start to rack up down the road, years and years, you might get that low oxygen alarm, which is the middle light in here. So you got the power light next to the button, low oxygen right here. That's not a good one to have. That means the oxygen is producing less than medical grade, which is about 88% or less. Ideally, if that light's not on, you're getting 90% or more oxygen from the unit. So as soon as you get any other alarm that lasts more than 5 minutes, give me a call and we'll address that one at a time and see if we can troubleshoot the issue. And then the bottom light of the three is more of a generic, it can come on if the oxygen's low, if the compressor has issues, if there's a airflow issue. That's basically an all-inclusive alarm that you just want to call us and we can self-diagnose over the phone and make sure that your machine's working. But other than that, there's not a whole lot to these machines, so they're very, very easy, simple machines to use. The really key part, honestly, is making sure that you have this. I went over this at the beginning of the call, but this is like the most important thing, and it's a little green Christmas tree looking piece, and that's what allows you to actually connect your machine to the cannula, just like that. So if you don't have this, or it goes missing, or it busts off, you need that in order for it to run. So I would give me a call and we can expedite one of those out. That goes right on there.
Aaron, I would say, so everyone got one of those, I presume. And then the Christmas tree, the splitter. If not everyone got those, we might want to arrange for everyone. You can pick, if you can send those out, if not everyone got one, because they may need that.
Okay. I can do that.
That'd be great if that's possible.
Yeah, so what he's talking about is this little Y split here, the little piece. And what that does is you get, this is a open-ended tube. So on both ends, I have this piece. So one of these ends goes to the machine, and then the other end connects to the Y right there. And then you have one user here, one user here. Now the key with this too is if you do have multiple users on one machine, whatever your unit is set to, each patient is going to get half of that. So if you want to get 4 liters yourself, you have to set the unit to 8. So that way on this end you get 4, and on this end you get 4. Okay, so that's important. So whatever setting you're on, if you're splitting it, you get 2 and 2.
And then, yeah, you get half. Yeah, it's split 50-50. The only other comment I'll just say, there's a question that for me to answer, which is using the nasal cannula versus the mask. So in general, the nasal cannula is good for 2 to 4 liters coming in through your nose. Higher than that, you go to a mask. Sometimes the nasal cannula can be drawing on the nose, and people prefer a mask. So it's a comfort thing, but also if you want high flow. So if someone was quite ill and you needed a lot more flow and you wanted the full above 4 liters basically, then you'd go to the mask. So that was a question that people had about the nasal cannulas versus the mask. All right, I think that covers it. Anyone else have a question? Otherwise, let me see if there's one here that I didn't see. No, answered that.
And I would urge anybody to, don't be shy on my end. If you have, everybody should have my contact information or email. I'm happy to field any other calls or questions that you have. We're trying to make sure everybody is up to par with what these things can do and feel comfortable with using it.
Great. Thanks for your time.
Of course. Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Is there anything else you have questions on? Anything else? Any other requests? Anything like that?
One other, here we go. I can't open the back panel with the HEPA filter. Any tips?
It's difficult. So I'll show you here. I'll tell you what I used because I'm upstairs here. I just have these heavy duty clippers, and I had an end that looks like this. So scissors would work, these would work, but it's if you kind of see how, let me get this piece. You'll see how this thing works. So this is the inside. So in order to get this piece off, this part has to come all the way down for it to pull out. So you have to basically, if this is the filter, so this is the inside where the HEPA is, you want to stick something up into here and push that tab down so it pulls out. So you got to get underneath this little tab that you'll see in there, because that's what's actually holding it on. I hope that visual works a little bit better.
Yeah,
Yeah. So there's your inside. You want to stick something right in there and then push down. And I just use these little clippers. Honestly, it's nothing special, no tools, but scissors, anything you got. Screwdriver probably works best.
And so just so you guys know, that side panel, that thing that pops off it pretty easy on the side there, that's the intake. So that's why it gets dirty, it sucks in whatever, cat hair or whatever. And that's why Aaron was talking about cleaning it so much.
That's the part that you really want to worry about cleaning a lot. And it's probably the easiest part because you just pull this little filter out and rinse and reuse. It's see-through, as you can tell.
Anywhere, are there any special indications where to set the machine? So, typically people put it when they're using it near wherever they are. So you can roll it around. It could be next to your bed, next to your couch, wherever you are residing. I think that's the question. Let me know. Ask it again if that didn't answer your question.
Yeah, and actually, a little side comment with that. I've had people, because again, I'll just preface again that most of our patients, we're dealing with people that use this 24/7. So they do not like having this thing around. Nobody wants to use the machine, but it's there to help you and to help your situation that you're in. So I've had people call and say, I feel like my oxygen levels are dropping. Well, they have this thing in a small closet somewhere, and keep in mind, this is basically a large filter. It's a large room air filter. So if you don't have a lot of room air around it to pull from, you're going to get a little drop in the purity of the oxygen coming around. But most of the time, you're just going to have this thing in a room somewhere, and it's got plenty of room around it. So I don't think anybody should have an issue with that. I would just not shove it in a small closet somewhere or put a jacket over it or anything like that. Don't use it as a coat hanger.
So people are saying other questions are, it makes a lot of noise, or are there longer cannulas to, the problem with that is, tell me if I'm wrong, Aaron, but if you got a 30-foot cannula, you're going to lose the amount of airflow as that air travels out. You need a lot more flow. Just think of a hose, to get it through. So I think the longer it is, you may run into problems.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the shorter the cannula or the shorter the tubing that you can have, the better. Now I'll tell you, so here's my cannula. So this is one that everybody should receive. It's about 7 feet. So at the end of this, if you're using more than 4 liters, it's probably not ideal because you're going to be on that mask. You want to be able to just use the mask right from the machine if possible. But if you needed to, let me find this piece. I'm sure not everybody's going to need one of these, but it looks similar to the Y connector. This is called a swivel connector, and it's just double-sided. So I can then have my 7-foot cannula, and then I put my swivel connector here, and then I can do a longer, I wouldn't say anything longer than 4 to 10 feet extra, but you could do that right to the machine. So essentially have 17 feet of tubing. But as Dr. Brad mentioned, you're going to get a little bit of depletion in the oxygen as well. So the shorter, the better.
I have a few more minutes. So the other questions were humidifier. Is there a built-in humidifier in there, or how do you recommend about humidification?
There is not a built-in humidifier, but as I mentioned how important the Christmas tree is right here, if you did want added humidification, in my opinion, in my years of doing this, it doesn't make a huge difference, to be honest. It gives you a little bit of peace of mind that you might be getting a little added moisture, but it depends. So if you did want to add some humidification to it, you would take your Christmas tree off the unit, and then it allows you to have this, it's like a little spout, like I don't know, water spout on the faucet. And then there's a bottle that sits it's about that big, that screws into the top here, and you fill it with about 3/4 water, distilled water preferably, and then your cannula comes off the bottle. So it basically shoots oxygen down through a tube into the water. It bubbles up, and then it comes out the cannula. So again, I personally haven't seen a difference in the moisture on that, but if that's something that you want to try, it's a little added thing that you can put on there. It's doable.
And if people need treatments, is there a way do you have them just do it separately if they need albuterol or other treatments? Is there a way to put it through that system? In line?
Not that I think with our use, we're just putting water straight through there. We haven't tested or done anything else with that.
Like a nebulized albuterol treatment or something. So they'd have to do it separately, it sounds like. Okay.
Yep.
And then getting more cannulas, they can order through you, I guess, or they can go online. But
yeah, just shoot me an email. You can call me. I'm pretty much available. I try to make myself available as much as possible, and I'm not doing anything else. I'm in quarantine, so this is my job. Hit me up if you need me.
And how long can you use each cannula for?
So you'll start to kind of see them get a little bit discolored. It'll start to turn yellowish tint. About that time, you probably want to start looking at maybe even a little bit before that. But for my 24/7 users, it's once a month. So that'll put it into perspective. If you're using it less than that, you can do it less. Some of the cannulas that were sent out were right by your face. So this portion that actually goes and wraps around your nose, this gets really hard, like an uncooked noodle. That's about when you want to try to look at replacing that too.
Great. Okay, I think it's a wrap. So if anyone needs to reach Aaron, we have his email. You can reach out to Julie. And Aaron, really appreciate all your help around this. It's been great. So thanks again.
Of course, and I appreciate everybody's patience with it, and thank you for working with us. But I think we're caught up on everything. So everybody should have their machine, or at least in transit. So
yeah,
let me know if you need anything else.
Okay, great. All right, everybody, take care. Thanks again, Aaron. Have a good day.
All right. Yep. See ya.
Take care.